Hello, and welcome to Let My People Eat, a podcast that provides satisfying talk about kosher nutrition. Here we clear through the clutter of nutrition speak, arm you with the clarity and confidence to eat, feel, and be your healthiest every day. I am Jill Scharfman, a board-certified holistic nutritionist living in Los Angeles.
And I'm Dr. Andrea Moskowitz, a neuroscientist and psychiatrist in Los Angeles. I use my training and experience to integrate positive lifestyle changes into my patients' lives.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, Jill. How's it going?
It's going well. So my question for you today is, have you jumped on the Instant Pot bandwagon?
No, I've been thinking about it, though.
Yeah.
Because, like a year ago, I went vegan.
Right.
So I have a crock pot, but sadly my crock pot is meat. It's fleshik. I used it for meat mostly. So I don't have like a slow cooker.
Right.
So then I was thinking, should I get an Instant Pot? Should I not? I don't know.
Well, maybe our guest today can convince you that I do not have one. I do, like you do, have a crock pot that we use for cholent on Shabbos, or I make sometimes a chicken ossobuco for lunch on Shabbos, but I don't use it during the week.
Right.
Which seems like a shame too. But we're going to talk to our guest today because she just came out with a cookbook, which is all about the Instant Pot, and it's kosher, which is great. Paula Shoyer is known as the Kosher Baker. She's the author of Healthy Jewish Kitchen, the Kosher Baker, and the brand new Instant Pot Kosher Cookbook, among several others. She has a French pastry degree from Paris, and is a brand ambassador for kosher food companies. Paula competed on Food Network's Sweet Genius and has appeared on TV over 45 times, including in Israel. She lives in Chevy Chase, Maryland with her family. Hey, Paula.
Hi, Paula.
Hi, it's fun to be here with you guys today.
Thank you.
Welcome to my kitchen.
Yes.
Thank you.
And welcome to Let My People Eat.
Yeah.
So, Paula, you're known as a chef. You've written lots of cookbooks. The newest one is Instant Pot. What made you do an Instant Pot cookbook?
Well, I started my career writing dessert cookbooks, hence the Kosher Baker name. I did the Kosher Baker and the Holiday Kosher Baker. But obviously, I couldn't serve my family babka for dinner every night. So I had to develop strategies for eating by cooking quickly and healthily for my family. So most of my food recipes were in my head for years until I wrote my Passover book. And then I wrote the Healthy Cookbook, which is, like I always say, it's how you're supposed to eat so that there's always room for dessert.
Right.
So
I'm sorry. You're known as the chef who takes the calories out of comfort food. So the foods that we love, making them a little less rich and dense.
Yeah, I'm always trying to save Jewish food. I don't want modern cooks to think that Jewish food is for old people, that it's too old fashioned, that it's not consistent with what we know today about nutrition and health. So I've had to move in a healthy kind of food direction just to balance out all the sweets. And I still, bake all the time. So I really need healthy food. Now, I was late to jump on the Instant Pot bandwagon. What happened was my fans of my cookbooks would ask me for Instant Pot recipes. And I kept saying, do I really have to buy yet another device for my crowded kosher kitchen? Dairy, meat, parve, Passover. It's just jammed. So I just kept saying, no. And then finally, I just decided, okay, fine. I'm getting so many requests for Instant Pot recipes. So I got the device. The first thing I made were a twist on a Korean short rib using flanken. And it was the moistest meat I had ever eaten. It was fall off the bone, melt in your mouth. Then I made split pea soup, right? Something that takes a really long time. And I made it much quicker. And that was delicious. And by the third recipe, I was absolutely hooked and realized, how did I not, where have I been? How did I miss this trend?
Yeah, it is a hot trend. Right. It really is.
So to speak.
Right.
Can you go over it just quickly, the differences or similarities too with because so many people have a crock pot. So they may be wondering that's my thing too. Another appliance to bring into my kitchen et cetera. So what are the differences and like the benefits of the Instapot versus a standard slow cooker?
Absolutely. So my crock pot is gathering dust in my basement. I haven't touched it since I got my Instant Pot. Now, what's great about the Instant Pot is that it cooks everything really, really fast, and all the smells stay in this one machine. So items that you would make in a crock pot over several hours, like I think the longest cooking time of anything in my Instant Pot might be my chillins, which is 75 minutes, but at most everything like blow off the bone meat is 35, 40 minutes.
Wow.
So I don't need a crock pot anymore because I get the flavor faster. Now, most pressure cookers have a slow cook function on the machines. I don't use it. I tried it once and it will keep food warm from before Shabbat till Shabbat lunch, but you can't really cook on it on a low heat. So I just make everything quickly and then I keep it on the warm setting of the device and everything just stays warm until I have dinner. And if it's a weeknight, and Jill was saying how, she doesn't think about using it during the week, I use it almost every day. You can always press the saute function and that will, it's almost like putting a burner underneath a pot.
It's amazing.
And that will warm things up.
So here are the reasons that you want to use an Instapot. It saves time. As Paula was saying, things get done very quickly. You can also save money, right? With using maybe less cuts of meat or...
You can, right, because cheap cuts of meat are going to get extremely moist in it. Dried beans are really cheap also. Right. So you can cook beans so quickly. I think I cooked black-eyed peas 2 days ago in about 16 minutes. Wow. Didn't soak them or anything. Threw them in the pot with some water and the beans are cooked perfectly. And you can make a whole meal like in this one pot. It's amazing. I have a recipe for a dal, like an Indian kind of yellow split pea kind of stew, where the stew's on the bottom of the Instant Pot. And then I put the rack on and a 6-inch round pan with rice and water. And I close the device and the stew cooks at the bottom and the rice cooks on top of it. Nice. So you open up your pot and your whole meal is there. You've got your vegetables and your protein and your stew and you've got your rice.
Wow, that's great. So cleanup is way easier. There's a lot less.
Oh, yeah, because everything is, and really they clean so well and and you don't have to stand over the pot. I mean, most of us are working at home these days, right? So I'll explain the saute function in a moment because it's my favorite feature of it. But I'll saute things over 5 minutes. Once I dump everything in and put the cover on, I'm not going back to my stovetop with my wooden spoon to check and stir and add things. I am back at work for the next whatever minutes until it's time to release the pressure, and it just cooks. So it takes less time. That's
great. I also was reading that food is more nutritious because all the nutrients and flavor, because it takes slower to cook, that's able to retain more vitamins. And pressure cooking did the best job of preserving nutrients with a 90 to 95% retention rate. So it's good way, as long as you're cooking healthy things in the,
right.
If you're making all the desserts all the time, but if you're cooking good, healthy food to begin with, it's good.
And it's it's such a great way to use up food in your refrigerator. So I have 3 out of my 4 children use the Instant Pot already. One of my kids barely even follows recipes. He literally just goes into his fridge and sees what's there or the bottoms of the vegetables or what isn't looking good and throws it in the pot with some water, some meat. You can put frozen chicken, frozen meat. You don't even have to plan. You can just throw frozen meat in with your vegetables, your beans, your barley, and some liquid and close it. And he creates meals all the time that way.
That's great. As you were saying also, it's because it uses less energy and maybe less water than boiling, it's also good for the environment.
Definitely less water. The rice cooking feature is really wonderful because there is a button on the device that says rice. You can do that one. And one of my kids always argues with me. He's like, no, it has to be 6 minutes. Do it that way. And then do a full natural release. But my daughter uses it as a rice cooker. So it really replaces so many different pieces of equipment in your kitchen. So if you're somebody in a small kitchen, maybe you don't need the small pot for rice, the medium pot for the salt. It replaces so many pieces. So if you have a small kitchen and also you don't want the smells, it's like all inside and you only have one thing to wash at the end.
That's great. So let's talk about who it's perfect for, because you talked about that your kids are using it. So young adults, maybe kids who are away at college, it might
college, grad school, their own apartment.
Great option.
Right.
Go ahead.
And it feeds a lot of people. Like you can really make a lot of soup and a lot of stew in it. So you really can feed a lot of people with it.
Right. And so it's good for parents who have growing families and they can easily make their meal quickly. You said also good for frozen food. So somebody like me who's always like, shoot, I forgot to defrost the chicken. You can just throw it in the pot. Right. Yeah. Right. And it's time saver. Like you were saying, that you can do 100% other things.
100% a time saver. So it was interesting when after I used it maybe 3 times, somebody told me about this Kosher Instant Pot Facebook group. So I went online because I was looking for recipes and tips, and because I was still a newbie, and I found this group. They had 8,700 members at the time, which I was really impressed with. So I started going through their feed, and there's so many recipes there. But everybody was arguing about the recipes being posted. Well, that has butter and I have to take out the butter. And that has this, I have to replace that. And that's for pork and I have to change it for chicken. And so people were frustrated in this group that they didn't have recipes that were tailored to them. And it was at that moment I decided that I would write a cookbook for these people. Now, this group is now 14,300 members. Wow. Full, it's really something. And I wrote the proposal to write this book after I had used the device 3 times. So it's this, this book will always represent that for me, that sometimes you have to fake it until you make it. So by writing the book, I became an expert, but I didn't go into it as an expert. I went into it because I saw that there was a need for kosher recipes that were tailored for the kosher audience, that we were tired of always substituting. People don't want to do that anymore. They just want to do the recipe.
Right. Yeah. That was my next question. Like, why kosher? But yeah, you're right. I mean, I used to work in advertising and I was sent a million cookbooks. And at some point I did a purge and I was like, anything that's not a kosher cookbook, unless it was absolutely stunning,
right.
I got rid of it because I was tired of trying to figure that out. It's a lot easier now because I feel there are a lot more vegan products around that you can substitute a lot easier. But
yes, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's great that the book is kosher. So we talked for a minute about Shabbos. So you can, because like I said, I don't have an Instant Pot, and the book is beautiful. It's stunning pictures. I saw an advanced copy. It's really great. I got the impression that you do need a cookbook for an Instant Pot. You do need to. Yeah, you
do. I think so. I don't think it's like naturally intuitive.
Right.
Initially, like there's definitely marching orders, like the amount of water. But like if you're trying to invent a recipe with tomato sauce, there are ways you have to add tomato sauce to the pot because if it's on the bottom of the pot, your pot will give you a burn message. So you definitely need. You definitely want to have recipes to try this device out and get to know it better.
Right. I felt like that I needed my handheld. There was things about the pressure, time, how to release the pressure, the time, ways to do it. So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily an intuitive kind of thing. I think you do need instruction and direction. And the book is definitely very clear about how to do that.
Yeah. I wanted every recipe to tell you what buttons to push. I wasn't going to let them say to me in the book, oh, just refer back to the beginning of the book. I was like, no, you're going to push this button. You're going to set the time for this. You're going to turn the lever to the sealing position. You're going to turn it to venting. So I wanted to make sure every single recipe was one that somebody for the first time they use their Instant Pot could open up the book and just follow it.
Yeah, it seems like that. So okay, so it's great for Shabbos. First of all, as you're preparing, it's one less thing on the oven.
Right, and this is really important for Shabbos. So, if you're not using electricity on Shabbos, what you do is you need a glass top for it because the top beeps when you open it. So basically what you do is you cook your food before Shabbos, you have it on warm, you remove the lid that locks in, that has all the mechanics on it, and you put a glass lid on top. The Instant Pot Brands company sells one that fits the Instant Pot device perfectly, but you might already have a glass cover that you can put on top of your Instant Pot. And that way nothing's going to beep or do anything electronic when you open it up to get your food out.
That's great. Okay. And then, like you were saying, you can make your chillin before and keep it on the warm function. It'll be good for the next day. Okay.
Yeah. So what I do is I keep it on, I actually use the slow cook function once it's cooked for the next day, because that stays on longer.
Got it. Okay. So now I'm thinking, though, if you're making your Korean short ribs and you're making a cheesecake, you need a meat and dairy, a whole new Instant Pot, or is it the insert?
Well, it's the insert and the cover. So yeah, you could have a separate insert and a separate cover, but by the time you've bought those, you can buy a new pot. So I have 3. I have 2 for meat and 1 for dairy, but I needed this to write a cookbook. But I love having a dairy Instant Pot. I made my steel cut oatmeal this morning for breakfast. It's what I eat for breakfast every morning. I make it in batches and warm it up every day. That's my breakfast. And it makes the best cheesecake. I've made shakshuka and brunch recipes. I have a whole brunch chapter, boiled eggs, macaroni and cheese. What else is dairy in there? I have I have a flan, I pot of creme. So I like having a dairy one, but a lot of people want, I think that the sweet spot of the Instant Pot really is soups and stews. But even if you are vegan, I have lots of vegan recipes. So if you are vegan and vegetarian recipes, one of my favorite recipes in the book are these vegan zucchini rolls, where I make cheese out of soaking cashews in water and pureeing them with other ingredients. And I spread that mixture on sliced zucchini and roll it up. And then I kind of poach it in tomato sauce in a little pan on top of the rack over water in the Instant Pot. So I guess some people would, if they want to keep it vegetarian and just use it for their vegetarian soups, they can. But if you're a meat eater, you want it for meat.
Yeah, it sounds like, because in our heritage, the Eastern Europeans, the North African, Mediterranean, we do have a lot of soups and stews in our toolbox cuisine. Thank you. So that it sounds like the Instant Pot would really be a great place to start with that. You're talking about accessories. I've heard you mention the rack, the glass thing. You said you had a little. Do you need specific accessories for the Instant Pot?
The ones that I use, a couple of them. So if you want to I make these little egg bites sometimes. So it's like a pan that has holes in it. And you can pour your little batter in and make almost little quiches and little egg bites. I like that. The rack comes with the device. I have like 6-inch round, like a 6-inch round, like baking pan, but I use that to do like what I call like pot and pot cooking, where the pan's on a rack over water. So the water steams. Think of anything that you would cook in a water bath. So you can create that in your Instant Pot. I also have a 2-pan, so I can make a sponge cake in it as well. Trying to think and one of my favorite hacks for the Instant Pot is really great. You don't have to buy anything. You can take a piece of aluminum foil and you fold it in thirds and you create a sling. So whatever pan is going on top of your rack, you put on top of your sling and you lift up the sides of the sling with the pan and you lower it into the pot on top of your rack. And then you can pick it up afterwards and makes it easy. And that's something that early users created. Yeah, the aluminum foil sling. So like you don't even have to buy. They probably sell things like that, but you can make it yourself.
Right. That's so smart. So these accessories though you don't need them specifically. Like you can put in ramekins or they're not specifically made for the Instant Pot.
Souffle dishes, like ceramic souffle, anything that will fit in the pot with a little space around it, you can use. If you have a mini loaf pan, you can use. People use a bowl. People put in like a glass bowl with rice and water and stick that in on top of the rack.
So everything just has to be high temperature friendly, I guess. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. Is there anything you can't make in an Instant Pot?
Well, it's I kind of went a little crazy with the book because I had certain things that I challenged myself to make because I wanted to have certain kinds of Jewish recipes. So I have matzah brie and I have potato kugel, but I tried making my chocolate babka, which is one of my most popular desserts, in the Instant Pot. And I know people have made cinnamon buns in it, but the texture was awful. So I was not happy with that. I also have barbecued chicken wings in the book where you boil that, you kind of steam the chicken wings on the rack. And then once they've cooked, which is really quickly, I put them on a pan and I just broil them in the oven for 5 minutes each side with some barbecue sauce and everything bagel spice. So you can finish off something in the oven to get that crispiness. But obviously, if you want something really crunchy, like it's not happening in the Instant Pot. It has to happen another way.
So do you need to put things in the oven after to get that brown, or it does get
if you
some
really,
of that?
You don't have to, because I find like the meat recipes, most of the chicken recipes are just moist and delicious.
Okay.
So I'm using the Instant Pot to create moist, flavorful food. I'm not using it for crunchy food. That's the air fryer. That's a regular oven.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Whole other thing.
A whole other thing. Okay, so the chicken wings sound good for the Super Bowl. We're going to have to remember that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There are a lot of recipes that are Passover Pesach friendly, I noticed. So I was actually thinking, if I get the Instant Pot, maybe I get it before Pesach. With the cookbook, and then I can use it for Pesach. So that was genius that you included that.
So many, I'm somebody who doesn't, I'm not always looking for like the carb heavy food. I just want to eat natural food. My Healthy Jewish Kitchen book was just nothing out of a jar, nothing processed. I just want to eat food. So when I think Passover food, I don't necessarily think about like, okay, besides matzo balls, just like heavy food. So many of the recipes in the book I can make for Passover as well. My favorite Passover recipe is the spinach pesto brisket, which is probably one of my favorite recipes in the book. Brisket comes out so good in the Instant Pot.
What size brisket can you put in there? What's the...
Well, I cut it in half, so I put one piece on top of the other.
Oh, you could do that. Okay.
But yeah, so you can fit a fair amount in there.
Good. Okay. That's really so much information. That's really very important. We're still in quarantine now, and I'm thinking that this would be a good tool to use while we're still on stay-at-home orders here in LA. Do you have any other tips for people, like while they're still at home? Any quarantine cooking tips that you want to share?
Absolutely. So a couple of things I realized early on when it was difficult to get ingredients was that you really need to preserve your ingredients. So what I started doing is I have a planter in my fridge with water at the bottom, and all my fresh herbs go into the planter, like it's like a little bouquet almost of a plant. It's in the fridge, and it helps me preserve the life of my parsley, my cilantro. I started using the stems in everything. I don't get rid of stems. I really cut my vegetables down to the end. The rule in our house when all my 4 kids were here on lockdown was you have to zest the citrus before you juice it. And that way you can get multiple uses out of the same orange, lemon, or lime. You could use the zest in a cake. You could use the juice in a salad. You could freeze the juice, freeze the zest, and use them for multiple dishes over a week, next week or two, which was great. So I was really all about not wasting any ingredients and being flexible. When I talked about, my son who's a forager in his refrigerator, you could take any of my like soup recipes. So like, let's say I have a butternut squash soup and you don't have much squash, you could use carrots. I have a super green soup. If you didn't have one of the green vegetables, you could use more of the other. So I did a lot of Zoom classes since the beginning of the pandemic. I think now I've clocked 106 virtual cooking classes. And one class that was really popular was called Quarantine Soup, which you can make in the Instant Pot or on the stovetop, which was, what do you got? How do I build a soup out of it? And I was teaching the science of building soup to people all over the world. I did some classes where I had people in Europe and Israel and as well, teaching people like, what are the basic amounts you need to put together to create soup out of whatever you have sitting around.
Right. No, it's so true, because really when it comes down to it, cooking, baking, there is some science there that if you start with your basics, you can create a million different options. So yeah, I love that idea that whatever you had around, especially when it was so hard to get things, that you could just use whatever you had and make something delicious out of that.
Right. And even now, like now that we're deeper into the pandemic, if you're somebody like me who really doesn't go to supermarkets, I'm relying on somebody else to buy ingredients, right? So some of the ingredients arrive and they're just what I want. Sometimes they're completely different. Mm-hmm. And so you need to be flexible. I ended up with black eyed peas, like 3 bags of black eyed peas when I wanted black beans 10 months ago. I developed a wonderful stew out of black eyed peas. I had never really cooked them before. So I think that what we have all learned during this time in so many aspects of our lives is that we're being thrown out of our comfort zone. And in order to adjust to that, we just have to kind of accept what we have and work with it.
Yeah. It's like looking at it like a challenge as opposed
to
a
it's like
burden.
everybody's I was on Sweet Genius on the Food Network, in 2011. It's basically, every night can be an episode of Chopped, where you're like, what do I got? What's my secret ingredient that I'm trying to use up, and create a meal out of it to nourish the people around you.
Yeah, I've been doing that also. I did that recently, something with a can of artichoke hearts. I made a little an artichoke crema out of that. Yeah, it's just what do you have and what can you do with it? Right. Yeah, that is very, very cool. I was also thinking while you were talking, it would be a great gift for a newlywed couple.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And I know that a lot of my friends' kids are getting married, and they are all registering for Instant Pot because I think they realize how great it is and what you can do with it. And, I think people are just busy, and people want something they can just throw in a pot and ignore. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is good. And the cookbook is beautiful.
So imagine that you're a carrot thrown into the Instant Pot on the saute setting. So it heats up and there's oil in it, and you're thrown into that Instant Pot, and you have that shock of that intense heat. But you look around and you see the other vegetables. So you're like, okay, I'm not alone. And you adjust to the temperature. But then more ingredients come in, and then the pot is sealed and you're locked in, and the pressure builds up. And it's really, really intense. But eventually, because the device doesn't have to be on very long to cook things, the pressure is released and the pressure comes down and the lid is opened, and then the lid is taken off and you can plan your escape. And basically, that's how we have all felt under COVID. Periods of intense pressure. Sometimes we're kind of on the warm setting, adjusting to life, and other times it's really intense pressure. So I keep thinking about how one day we will all be like the food in the Instant Pot. The device will be opened and we will come out into the light and we will be served to our family and friends.
I love that. Will be nice and caramelized. You can find Paula at thekosherbaker.com. She's on Instagram at Kosher Baker, and she shows all these delicious foods that she is making. She's on Facebook also at the Kosher Baker. You can pre-order the Instant Pot Kosher Cookbook on Amazon, and I will put a link to it on our website. Paula also donates 10% of all books purchased through her to organizations that feed the needy. So is that through your website?
Yeah, so people can just message me through the contact page on the website, and they can pay me through Venmo or PayPal and order signed books directly from me.
That's great. Okay, and also she mentioned her Zoom classes. She teaches to organizations, private groups. She does a teen dinner prep class.
Oh, nice.
Which I think sounds really fun.
I kind of want to start doing. I think I might schedule this year if I find interest. Maybe it'll be a one class of teaching teenagers how to use the Instant Pot, because I had one of my students in my fall dinner prep class who was making everything in the Instant Pot. It was really funny. She just had it there. She's like, well, everybody's making stew, but I'm making the Instant Pot. And so I think that kids want to learn how to use it too. And I think the parents will be happy for them to do it. But the dinner classes have been so much fun because these kids learn skills. They make dinner in their own homes. Right. And I've taught kids, 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds seem to be my most popular groups. But I've taught them vegetarian recipes, chicken, meat. I have a French pastry class I'm starting up this week for a small group. It's been really fun for me, especially now that kids really don't have the same kinds of after school activities that they used to have. They're spending so much time at home, and cooking virtually really does work. I've been really amazed. I've taught kids how to make crepes through Zoom, homemade pita. It's been remarkable to me. And that's something I think will last after the pandemic is over. Right. But like you said, it's such a good time to challenge yourself with something new in the kitchen.
That's great. Well, thank you.
Thank you
so much, Paula. I want to remind everyone to follow me on Instagram at Jill H. Scharfman, and I want to thank our engineer, Mike Casantini, at the Network Studios. Paula, your book is out when?
February 2nd.
But you
exciting.
can pre-order now.
Yeah, you can pre-order now. It's very possible that books will start shipping before then. That's what I'm hearing. But the book's been incubating a while, and the pandemic slowed down the release, unfortunately. I'm just so excited to get this book out into the world.
Yeah, and like I said, it's beautiful. The pictures, I love beautiful pictures, and it's a lot of good instruction there and direction. So
Which is important.
It's important because it is a new device, and we need to learn how to use it to get the best out of it. So thank you, Paula, so much for doing this. Thank you for making it kosher for those of us out there.
It's kosher. It's Israeli. It's modern. It's trendy. It's got a little bit of everything for everyone.
That's great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is it for this episode of Let My People Eat. Please visit our website at letmypeopleeat.com and leave us a comment. Get in touch at our email at podcast@letmypeopleeat.com or call us at 317-659-0004.
We are also on Facebook. Search for Let My People Eat podcast to join the discussion. You can ask questions and suggest topics you'd like us to talk about in future episodes.
If you like this show, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and tell your friends and family to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Let My People Eat is proud to be part of Jewish Coffee House, where you can find your fill of stimulating podcasts dedicated exclusively to Jewish content.
Please remember that while we are certified professionals, this is not a medical advice podcast. No content, posts, or comments should be interpreted as professional guidance. Always speak to your own doctor about making the right life changes for you.
Until next time, I am Jill Scharfman.
And I am Andrea Moskowitz.
Thanks for joining us, and go in good health.